While 2017 has been a fantastic year for some brilliant games, it's also in many ways been absolute dog shit. This video that we've chosen to record, edit and upload, especially in time for the Christmas holidays, is all about how shit the last year has been. Happy Christmas, everyone.
2017 started off with a fine salvo of games. Resident Evil 7, Nier Automata, Horizon Zero Dawn, Zelda Breath of the Wild, Neo, all cracking games. Surely, we thought, 2017 is shaping up to be an excellent year for gaming. We can't wait to see what's next, we thought. What did come next was For Honor, a game about honourable combat between historical combatants like knights, Vikings and samurai. It was hampered by bugs, connectivity problems and some of the most dishonourable multiplayer antics we've seen all year.
For Honor's problems were underlined when in August the tournament for the game was held and the winner claimed the top prize by using a well-known exploit. Jakob Palm used a pretty simple gameplay exploit known as Unlock Tech, which had been known amongst the community in the weeks leading up to the tournament, yet the devs failed to fix it. Because of this, the tournament became less of a showcase of skill from players and more of a showcase about how broken the game is. The year really did start off really well. It was some excellent games, right? Good mix of games as well, and a lot of interesting things coming out. For Honor looked kind of interesting. It could have been something really good, like a multiplayer-focused melee fighting game. And it just was not good.
Just remember that Jakob Palm guy after he wins. Remember that? Where he's like, he does the stretch.
Yeah. He's so happy. He's himself for a few seconds. He's like, yes! And then he's like,
yeah, all cool about it.
He suddenly becomes Top Gun.
2017 was also very much the year of the Nintendo Switch. The console shifted 10 million units just 9 months after going on sale, and it's got 2 Game of the Year contenders under its belt in the form of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey. Not bad for your first year on sale, but there have been problems. The biggest of which perhaps being its voice chat. At launch, the Switch didn't support any form of voice chat between players. To get chat working on the Switch, first you need a headset that has 2 3mm headphone cables on it. One of those goes into the Switch while the other goes into your phone. Then you need to open the Nintendo Switch online app and organize a voice party. And the app on your phone needs to remain open for it to work. This was a fundamental omission from the outset. The fact that you're going to need a phone with an app on it in order to talk, party chat online. Did they not think about that when they were putting the plans together for the Switch? Obviously not.
And also this year, Shadow of War was a pretty divisive game when it launched in September. Intelligent geniuses like me thought it was an absolute heap of bloated rubbish, while other, more foolish people thought it was pretty good. The game was mired in loot boxes and microtransactions, and also the subject of a controversy surrounding the death of one of its developers, whose likeness was to be added to the game as paid DLC. That was a decision that Warner Bros. U-turned on pretty quickly. One of the weirder bits of news to come from Shadow of War, though, was the reveal that Shelob, the giant terrifying spider from the original books and Peter Jackson's movies, was now a sexy brunette lady in a cocktail dress. Come on, video games, what are you doing? It was justified by developer Monolith's creative vice president Michael De Plata, who said Shelob has always had the ability to take whatever form she desires. It just so happens that she's always wanted to be a giant spider.
We do a joke about taking whatever form we want and whatever form she desires. Fuck it. Next up, Bethesda gave us some cool stuff this year. Wolfenstein 2, Skyrim on the Switch, and some lovely Dishonored DLC. Was that a joke?
No.
But they also gave us the closest thing to paid mods. Back in 2015, you may recall the shit show that was Steam's paid mods, which allowed modders to charge for their mods on Steam, notably for Bethesda's Skyrim. That was scrapped, but this year Bethesda announced the Creation Club, which, despite strong words to the contrary from Bethesda, some modders and community members, is essentially paying for mods. Bethesda honcho Pete Hines referred to as mini DLC at one point before backtracking and calling it something new. It's probably no coincidence that shortly after the launch of the Creation Club, the most downloaded free mod on the Steam Workshop for Fallout 4 was a simple mod that removed any traces of the Creation Club from your game.
And before we move on to the last item on this list, which we all know is about loot boxes. I mean, what else? We need to give something of an extra special mention. This is a tough one because as this is basically a list of all the bad things that happened in 2017 in gaming, there's actually too much stuff to mention in one video. And a lot of that is down to one company, EA, obviously. 2017 was the year in which EA shut down Visceral Games, the studio that made the excellent Dead Space series. They're gone now, and the single-player focused Star Wars title that they were working on is to be retooled to have a greater mass appeal and make more money through shit like microtransactions.
2017 was the year which EA oversaw the demise of another of their excellent sci-fi franchises, Mass Effect. Mass Effect Andromeda is a sad story about a support studio finally getting their chance to make their own game. But the way that project was managed ultimately led to its demise. It seemed rushed, incomplete, patched together and largely underwhelming. Everyone's faces were tired of the game at launch, almost as tired as we are of using that for a joke. And BioWare Montreal was shut down shortly after. They left behind a small team to maintain the still potentially lucrative multiplayer bolted onto the game because it had microtransactions. Why else? While story threads obviously intended to be tied up by DLC will now forever be left dangling.
Yeah, so what happened here was we had a few kind of items and we just had to smash them all together because they were all EA stuff. It was all EA bollocks. The EA's done. We're not even mentioning the biggest one yet. You know what's coming. You know what's coming next. We don't even mention that yet. This is other stuff that's happened. Closing studios down, games that is really disappointing. They've had a bad year, EA, and they've still made loads of money. Their share price has gone through the roof all the time. And then after the next thing we're about to talk about, after that, the share price went down a bit. But still, overall, they've had an amazing year financially because they managed to just break through all the bollocks that they do and just keep making tons of cash. But the biggest, baddest up of all was, of course, Star Wars Battlefront 2. Star Wars Battlefront 2, a multiplayer shooter set in the Star Wars universe made by multiplayer shooter experts DICE, somehow went wrong. EA somehow found a way to cock that up. Think about that for a second. It already happened once before with the incredibly lightweight Star Wars Battlefront in 2015. Battlefront 2 was announced and marketed essentially as a promise to make amends to fans after that underwhelming game. We were given charts showing how much more content there would be this time around, and even a roadmap of post-release content that would arrive for free. It looked and sounded great, possibly the best recreation of Star Wars movies we've seen ever, alongside the 2015 game.
But while fans did get a solo campaign this time around, it was incredibly short and mostly uninspired. There was a single-player offline mode with bots, but that was a shallow and literally unrewarding experience. There was a hefty multiplayer, the game's centerpiece, but the bad press around the game, coupled with some serious connection problems at launch, have already cost the game dear. And that's even before we start talking about the seismic impact this game has had on the games industry. Battlefront 2's loot boxes might well go down as the worst in any game ever. If not for the massively negative effect they had on the game, then for the aftermath they caused. Battlefront 2 became an overnight meme, with even other people in the industry, developers and publishers, people like CD Projekt Red, taking swipes at EA over the loot box system.
And if we can remind you quickly, that last one, that CD Projekt Red thing, was directly in response to one of our videos. The CD Projekt just kind of responded to some stuff we'd done and said we'll leave greed to the others, in direct reference to EA. That this was another big AAA publisher developer having a go at EA. I haven't seen anything like that before. This is absolutely, it was a big thing. This is probably the biggest single video game news item of the year, I would say, because of how long running it's been, because it's sparked debates on a political level. It's because there's governments and stuff involved in this now. There are gambling commissions investigating this stuff. Star Wars Battlefront 2 was the pinnacle of the loot box bollocks that we've seen in 2017, and it was, you know, Shadow of War, Destiny 2, Forza 7, all these other games around it all had a part to play in it, but Star Wars Battlefront 2 was the big one.
The chosen one, you might say.
Well, yeah. The gameplay was tied inescapably to the loot boxes like butter on bread. Saturated, coated, sinking into the fibres of the game itself. To take them out would be to redesign the entire game, it seemed. Fans were quick to do the maths and learnt just how much of a pay-to-win or pay-to-progress system it truly was. It would take 40 hours to unlock Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader to use in multiplayer, or alternatively, you could throw your money at the game to get them quicker. EA community management took to Reddit to respond to all this, and that's when it happened. The most downvoted comment in Reddit history. Quote, "The intent is provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment for unlocking different heroes."
Which in itself made it into a meme overnight. It's another well-quoted thing from the internet this year in gaming. I mean, memes are plenty from EA this year.
Straight into the history books.
Thank you for the memes. EA made changes. They froze microtransactions, reduced the cost of heroes, and have pledged to make this work. But the damage to them has been done. We say to them because in the long run, it could actually turn out to be good news for us. Battlefront 2 was so bad, it woke the world up to what loot boxes actually are and how they might actually be harmful. Lawmakers and government bodies from Belgium, the Australian state of Victoria, and the US state of Hawaii were among the first to sound off. The discussion is now whether or not loot boxes can be considered gambling, and if not, shouldn't they just be looked at anyway? EA were called out by US state legislator Chris Lee for using predatory behaviour, while he likened Battlefront 2 to a Star Wars themed casino, one that targeted young people.
And of course, while Battlefront 2 was the biggest offender this year, it was far from the only one. YouTube critic Jim Sterling has already dubbed 2017 the year of the loot box, and with good reason. We've seen them really rise to prominence in $60 AAA games this year. Destiny 2, Shadow of War, Need for Speed Payback, Forza 7, Call of Duty World War 2, any sports game, Mass Effect Andromeda, For Honor, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, Injustice 2, they are everywhere. Ultimately, this year has really been the year of the loot box. It could have been the year of the Switch, the year of the power-boosted console, the year of the Battle Royale, the year of VR, the year of so many cool things. But the loot box casts a big, randomized shadow over all of that. So there you go, they were the biggest gaming fails, some of the worst things that happened in gaming this year. Let us know what you think were the worst things that happened this year down in the comments. Remember to like the video if you enjoyed it. Please do subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this every single day. There's also another video right there which you can watch right now if you want, and a link to Patreon if you do want to support the channel. See you next time.